Hello, it is Sunday, and I realize that every Sunday I'm wearing this hoodie, but it's just because that's when it gets washed, is on Saturdays, and it's my favorite hoodie, so I wear it a lot. Last week was a really good reading week, even though it doesn't really look like it, because when I hold up the stack, it looks like this. I did read 3 Kindle books, though, and they were not small ones. I read 4 Kindle books. Never mind, I read 4 Kindle books. I forgot about one of them. What was the first one? Oh, okay. Yeah. Half of those Kindle books were not small ones. So I guess I read 8 books last week. I thought it was just 7. That's nice. So let's get started. Let's get started on that. I also received quite a bit. Good chunk. I don't know. We're kind of just taking it as it comes at this point. But the first book that I read was one of the Kindle ones, and that is Of Foster Homes and Flies by Chad Lutzke. And this is a story about a preteen. He's like a middle schooler. I think he's like 12, who is not living in the best situation. His home life is pretty trash. His mom is an alcoholic who never really wanted him. But what he's really looking forward to is that there's a spelling bee, and he's been really practicing for it, and he's really, really excited about it. But unfortunately, about a week before the spelling bee, his mom dies. And they live, with just the 2 of them. And so he doesn't want to let anybody know that she's dead, because he knows that if he does, he's going to get taken away and he won't be able to do the spelling bee. And so it's just his life kind of trying to figure out how to get this done, how to hide the fact that his mom is dead long enough that he can do the spelling bee. And after that, he's completely fine with people knowing that she's dead and going away, but he just needs to do the spelling bee. I read a couple of books by Chad Lutzke. This is, I think, the one that's impressed me the most. I do think he's kind of middle of the road. He's fine. I do think that the thought process of this kid really just want to do the spelling bee was pretty honestly realistic. Kids at that age don't really, especially boys at that age, don't really think things through. I give it 4 out of 5 stars. It was probably on the lower end of the books I read this week, but honestly this week I read a lot of really good ones. And it was on Kindle. I'm pretty sure it was free. I'm sure it's super cheap or on Kindle Unlimited. I don't have Kindle Unlimited, but I do, have a lot of books that I get for free on my Kindle. I give it 4 out of 5 stars. After that, I read another book that is by an author that I've read some from, and again, was probably the best book I've ever read by them. That is At Dark, I Become Loathsome by Eric LaRocca. I read You've Lost a Lot of Blood a couple years ago, and I was not really all that impressed with it. This book follows this guy, and his wife is dead. His son was kidnapped years ago, and he now makes his living by showing people a preview to death. He takes people who want to kill themselves, he buries them alive, and then he digs them up after half an hour. Normally they're like, oh my god, that was terrible, I don't want to do that. And it's about him kind of having a psychological breakdown about this, and how well, maybe this isn't, maybe I should just kill them, maybe I should just leave them under there, and then he kind of gets into this one guy that he's gonna bury alive, and it's a whole bunch of that. And really, a lot of this was beautiful, honestly, and it was very kind of self-aggrandizing in kind of a Pop Easy Bright kind of way, which I can really get into as a horror person who really likes emo music and was an English major. I like it when it's a little pretentious in a gothy kind of way. I really do. And that was really what this book had in spades. I think that this is not the book for everybody, but it was definitely the book for me. And this is LaRocca's newest release. This came out in January. I actually read it in a fairly timely manner, which is nice. But no, really liked it. 5 out of 5 stars. Does make me feel better about the fact that I have at least I have 2 more of his books in the book wall. All right, then I read I suppose a nonfiction. This is kind of just a collection of speeches. I suppose it was my worst book of the week. It wasn't terrible. It was a 3-star. As No One Is Too Small to Make a Difference by Greta Thunberg. This is just a whole bunch of her speeches. And because they're speeches, they really repeat themselves over and over. I don't know that this needed to be a collection or a book, but I read it. It's fine. 3 out of 5 stars. All right, then the next Kindle book I read, so good. It was so good. It was Night Shoot by David Sodergren. And this book had everything that I have been missing from modern extreme horror. Honestly, it was so gross in that extreme horror way, but it had feeling, it had character. I felt for the characters, and that's not something I've ever felt in modern extreme horror. This one, it really kind of had Beast House vibes in a lot of ways. So if that part of Beast House bothered you, and if you've read Beast House, you know what I'm talking about, say that part, also is involved here. So, you know, be forewarned. But this book, it was about this group of like college film students, and they have like one day to shoot on location at this really creepy old dilapidated manor that one of their like uncles owns. But they have to be out by 8. They have to be out by 8, but they don't get done. And so they break back in after 8, and they find out why they had to be out by 8. It was so good. It was so fun. It was so good. I've seen David Satterman's name get kicked around a lot when I watch like horror booktubers. And this is my first book by him, and it was so good. Like, it was just so fun. You could tell he had so much fun with it. The kills were so unique. Oh my, it was bloody, and the ending was like open-ended, so like I was kind of mad about, because like I want to know that they're okay, but like I understand it. I understand. 5 out of 5 stars. It was great. All right. I suppose I can call my new least favorite Bret Easton Ellis book. That's not saying it's bad. It's just saying it's the sequel to what was currently my least favorite Bret Easton Ellis book. But it still had a lot of what made that one great. You know, like it has what makes Ellis great, like at the end of the day. And that is Imperial Bedrooms by Bret Easton Ellis. This is the sequel to Less Than Zero. But it really kind of takes the idea that Less Than Zero was a story, and it kind of takes this a step back from that, and in the way that it was really concerned with reality in that way. I was reminded a lot of Glamorama, because all of Bret Easton Ellis's works that I've read, at least, and this makes 4, all of them have been very concerned with reality and what is actually real and what is not real, and whether that even matters. The most overt of this one is Glamorama, but you do see that in all of his other books that I've read. And this book did lean into that in the same way that Glamorama did. But Glamorama's better. And so it mostly just made me want to reread Glamorama. But it is wonderful. I love Bret Easton Ellis's writing. Like, I feel so pretentious whenever I read anything by Bret Easton Ellis, because I just love it so much. I give it 4 out of 5 stars. Like I said, my least favorite Ellis book, but that's just because Less Than Zero had previously been my least favorite out of the ones that I'd read. If I had to rank, it'd be Glamorama, The Shards, Less Than Zero, Imperial Bedrooms. No, I have not read American Psycho yet. He's back there. All right, next I read some, I guess, historical literary fiction. This book came out in the 80s, and I didn't realize it. I thought it was recent, I guess, just because it had recently gotten some kind of adaptation. But I read The Queen's Gambit by Walter Tevis. This book did not give a fuck. It follows this orphan who is definitely autistic or something, and she really hyper focuses in on chess. And she is like, she's like, nothing matters to her more than chess, and also drugs. She's also a drug addict at the tender age of 8. It was good. It was really, like, I don't know what word I'm looking for here. Like, but it did really, it sucked you in. It kept you there. It was, like I said, it's from the 80s. And I guess you can kind of tell from the writing style, it's a little bit more literary. Than I think something like this would be nowadays. I did like some of the characters, but I did find that some of them did have some unsatisfying ends, but overall it was a good book. And I think that's kind of what I would put under is good book, like capital G, capital B, TM, you know. I give it 5 out of 5 stars, but it's a 5 out of 5 stars in like the most technical way. Like, it's not going to be one of my favorites of the year, but it's a good book. And this is like a book like I'd give to like an older coworker who's looking to get into reading, you know, like somebody who's like 60. I'm like, read The Queen's Gambit, you know, because they probably watched the Netflix series. I haven't. I don't have Netflix, but all right. Then there are 2 more Kindle books, and you can make the argument that both of these are sports romances. The first one was Pole Position by Rebecca J. Caffrey, which is it's an F1 romance, and it follows these 2 F1 racers who, it's like a enemies to lovers kind of thing, but basically one of them, he's been racing for 15 years, and his partner gets like a broken leg, so he can't race anymore. So they bring up this guy from like the lower circuits who is like really like a hotshot party boy, doesn't take anything seriously, and they just clash in like the best way. It was really fun. This is not something that I take very seriously, this book, but it was really fun. And I know a lot of people didn't really care for Harper. Reading reviews, that's what I was getting, but I really liked Harper. I thought he was really fun, and there's the melodrama of all the trauma surrounding him and his abandonment issues was just perfect. It was wonderful. It was wonderful to read. It was very fun. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars, and now the king of the week. Oh my, this was a big one. I read this pretty much yesterday. It's 484 pages long, and I'm like, Nora, who hurt you to give us that large of a book? I hope to God that Rainbow Crate makes exclusive editions of this second trilogy, because I need beautiful copies of them sitting next to my Foxhole Court. And it's the Golden Raven. I read the Golden Raven yesterday. Oh God, that was gross. I don't know what it is about these books just getting better with every single one. Like, I really enjoyed the original. I've read the original trilogy probably like 5 times. And I really enjoy them. They're very fun. They're really melodramatic. They're unrealistic. They're a lot of fun. I enjoy them. And then the Sunshine Court came out last year, and it was like you could tell that she had really leveled up in her writing. This book, I almost cried like 6 times. I never made it all the way, but it almost happened. Like 6 times, it almost happened, and I just so much like of course we've got Jean and all of his issues and everything's going wrong with him, but then Jeremy, now we're gonna make me sad about Jeremy too, and then like now I really want to know what's going on with the foxes, and like I know that their part of the story's over. I know that we've got bookends, like that's over, but I would be so happy if you just Cassandra cleared it around so that we just never have to stop reading about these kids, honestly. And Jean and Jeremy, and just Jean's development has been perfect and very sad, and all of like the issues that he's been having is just I'm so sad. I'm so sad. I'm so sad. 5 out of 5 stars. It's better than the Sunshine Court, and the Sunshine Court made it on my top 10 last year. So like I shudder to think at what place this is going to be on my top 10 next year, because I know it's going to be there. So out of these, what I'm keeping At Dark I Become Loathsome. Bold choice. I'm doing it. I'm gonna get rid of this. I'm keeping this because it's Bray Snell's and it's a hardcover. And I'm getting rid of this, so that's very nice and even. What I received. Let's talk. First up, I did get 2 New Yorkers in last week for some reason, but I do have the February 17th and 24th. This is the 100-year New Yorker, so it's very big. It's got a lot going on in here, so we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I also got the March 3rd New Yorker. We got our Founding Fathers moving out. Very fun. All right. Then I picked up a couple of books just off of Amazon, and a couple of books from lots from eBay. So the Amazon books first, I got the Yearbook by Peter Larangis, which is a fun like teen 90s horror paperback. We got Most Likely to Die, so this is going to be a great time. Oh my god. I also picked up Bullet Time by Nick Mamontas, which is this is about a high school kid who I want to say this might be like a school shooting thing, or some kind of like this high school kid who's like constantly bullied and picked on, and he just like snaps. That's what I'm getting from this. But I did get that. Then I got a lot of young adult books off of eBay, and all of these were like books that were super popular when I was in high school, and so that was kind of fun. Except for one of them I've never heard of before. But we got World After by Susan E. I read Angel Fall right when I graduated high school. I never continued, and so now I'm going to pretend that I remember anything that happened in Angel Fall and read this. We've got City of Bones, which I read in 5th grade. And I read most of these books. I read all the Mortal Instruments. I read all the Infernal Devices. I think that's actually where I stopped. I read the first Dark Artifices book. And a couple of other random ones, but I've got this now. This is the one that I don't recognize, and that is Unleashed by Nancy Holder and Debbie Vigwe, which is a Wolf Springs Chronicles, so it's definitely paranormal romance. Very much in line with, that time of young adult literature. It came out in 2011, which checks out immensely. And then we also have Maximum Ride, The Angels by James Patterson, which I tried to read a couple of these. I was deeply bored by them when I was a child. But oh my, look how big that font is. Jesus Christ, that'll be fast. And then there was a Stephen King hardcover lot with one like little bonus non-Stephen King book. But I got this primarily for 2 reasons. And really, so 3 of these books are books that I do not have in hardcover for Stephen King, which was a big decision in my purchase. One of them I did. That is Dr. Sleep. I do already have a hardcover of Dr. Sleep, but I suppose I will reread it. The ones that I didn't have, I did not have a hardcover of Cell, which is very nice to get this. I've only read this one once. I enjoyed it when I read it. It was a fun time. What I remember about this is that the sidekick is gay. That's what I remember. That's what I remember. Also, one of my favorite Stephen King books. So happy to have a hardcover. That's Needful Things, and it is in such beautiful condition. Oh my god, it's perfect. It is looking absolutely perfect. I am so like happy to have this one. This was honestly the biggest reason why I did was because of this of this one. Like the other ones, like I've been kind of looking around for a hardcover to sell, but like it wasn't my favorite. But Needful Things, I love Needful Things, and I'm so excited to have hardcover. The last one was actually one of my least favorite Stephen King books. I read it once. I read it over the course of a month because I just could not get through it. So like every night, I was in high school, I think I would sit down and I had like a little like reading light right above my head in bed. And I would sit down, I'd read a chapter, I'd make myself read a chapter every night, and it took me a full month, and I rated it 3 stars. That's the lowest I think I've ever rated a Stephen King book, is 3 stars. And that's Bag of Bones. So I'm interested to reread it as an adult and see if my perspective has maybe changed. But it again is one that I did not have in hardcover because it's hooked. And then anyway, we've got new stories by the Masters of Modern Horror, which is a bunch of short stories from like Stephen King. We got Clive Barker, Peter Straub, Ramsey Campbell, Whitley Strieber. Those are the ones I recognize. So what's the Stephen King one? I think the Stephen King one is at a night shift. The Night Flyer, yeah. So that's that. There will be more books next week. I'm aware. I know. I don't know how much I'm going to read next week. I did already read a book today, but it was very short, and then my next book is very long. So we'll see. Although it is spring break, lots of time. So that might work in my favor, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But that is that. I will talk to you later. And goodbye.